Welcome everyone to our webinar, Is Oracle Support Rewards Program Right for You? I'm Dan Ashton with Rimini Street and I'll be your moderator for today. We're going to be covering with our panel some really interesting information regarding Oracle's new rewards support program. So let's get started here. We're going to cover, first of all, what is it? Then we're going to talk with our panel around the pros and cons, what are the appropriate use cases, total cost of ownership, and some alternatives. And we'll also, as part of that panel discussion, cover the Q&A that we received from you, our attendees. So, Michael, these are today's speakers: Craig Garanti, CEO and founder of Palisade Compliance, and Michael Bethon, VP and Executive Advisor at Rimini Street. Michael, why don't we get you started first? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Dan. Yes, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. First, thank you for letting me spend a little bit of time with you today. Again, as Dan said, our goal here today is to give you information so you can start making decisions on your own. What is Oracle Rewards? Does it work for you? What are the options if you need it? How do you make it work for you? What are the different paths you may want to pursue? And so our job here today is to give the information you need. Quick about me, I've been in IT for a long time now, going on 30 years. I've been an IT executive CIO for about the past 15 years in a variety of businesses, both on the infrastructure and the software side. So extremely familiar with all things IT, SAP, Oracle, cloud. And my goal here today is to give the information. And again, please ask your questions, type them in. At the same time, if you want to have follow-up conversations, you go into more detail about your particular situation and see what we can do to help, reach out to us after this and we can set up a personal call and have a one-on-one. With that, back to you, Dan.
Thanks, Michael. All right, Craig, you're up next. Tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit more about Palisade Compliance for folks who aren't aware of you guys.
Sure, and thanks for having me. I look forward to today's call. So my name is Craig Garanti, and as Dan stated before, I'm the founder for Palisade Compliance. I've actually been dealing with Oracle licensing and contracts now for 26 years. I spent 16 years at Oracle, where I was their VP of contracts and business practices and audits. So all those agreements that are giving you trouble, they went through someone or some tool in my organization. And then I left Oracle and started this company, Palisade, to sit on the other side of the table and help companies who are looking to reduce their Oracle cost or having trouble with their licensing or need to get a handle on their contracting or compliance, or even those companies who want to spend more with Oracle. So Palisade is 100% independent of Oracle, and we really just help our clients do what they want to do. And one of the number one things from 10 years ago and from today that we get here from clients all the time is my Oracle support bill is too high. So I'm excited about today's conversation.
And Craig, you actually had a couple of conversations where Oracle reached out to you to brief you on the Oracle Rewards program. So you've become a very good expert direct from the horse's mouth, right?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I was it was a pleasant surprise. Had a great call with Oracle, a couple of them, and we've been sharing some information back and forth because they really, they even view us as thought leaders in sort of dealing with Oracle and managing your Oracle costs. So they wanted to make sure that we knew exactly what this program was and what it wasn't. And like I said, we've gone back and forth a little bit. I asked a lot of questions about how it works and what's included and what's not included. And they asked me for suggestions on how they can make the program better. And, I've gone back to them and said, here's a couple of things that I think would help your customers. And we're just waiting to see whether those things are implemented or not. But it was really good because I did get to understand more about exactly what they were doing outside of a press release. So the fact that we sort of have that information, we put up a blog post about this with a lot more detail on it. And, they let me know what was happening before they announced it. So we sort of held our powder dry. And then afterwards, I posted the blog post, and it's not all, hey, this is a great thing. There's good and there's bad and there's indifferent about it. And even Oracle said, listen, what you said was pretty fair. So they agree with what we said there too. So I encourage everyone to read that, and we'll talk about what Oracle told us in this program today.
All right. Terrific. Thanks so much, Craig. And Michael, just to give you some equal time, can you give us a brief summary of Rimini Street for those who may not be familiar with us?
Yeah, hopefully you know about us, but obviously we're a public company, been around for a long time. And if you say, what do? I mean, we do support. And so you can see the products listed below. But think of that software support and those related services is what our DNA is. Been around quite some time, as I said, global reach. If you can think of the country, we're probably working in that country. And the thing that I think personally being here just a few years that I'm so proud of, if you look at that client satisfaction number, when you think of software support and reaching out to your partners for tickets and advice, getting a 4.9 out of 5 is unheard of in the industry. And so very proud to be part of a company where that is what we do. And that number drives a lot of our activity around here. So that's the quick pitch here on Rimini. But again, look at the bottom, and across the Oracle and SAP landscape, we pretty much cover everything in addition to other products such as SQL Server. But that's it.
All right. Thanks, Michael. So let's get into it here. First of all, what is the Oracle Rewards program, specifically for those who might not be at all familiar with it? Michael, why don't you start us off, and you and Craig can both tag team this.
Yeah, and Craig, I'll let you jump in. I mean, at the end of the day, think of it, what Oracle is doing with the business model is they're trying to say, for those people who are using our software support, they obviously are pushing very aggressively over the last year or so to get people to move to the OCI. Their Oracle cloud infrastructure, which is somewhat competing with an Azure and AWS. Obviously, the footprint is much smaller, but what they're trying to do is to reward their loyal customers who are going to continue to stay with them and spend money for software support for their on-premise solutions. They want to give them some money to encourage them to move to the OCI platform. So that's a business model. It's a business strategy. So basically what the concept is that if you spend $1 million for software support and stay in your hosted data center, they'll give you a portion of that money back when you consume OCI. You need to take your software, move it to OCI and start consuming it, and then they give you some money back off. So it's really an incentive model to reward those customers who are staying with them to get them to move to OCI, which is part of a longer-term strategy.
And according to this, it says 25 cents for every dollar, so 25%. But if you're on a EULA, it's 33 cents.
Yeah, and Craig, why don't you talk a little bit more about the differentiation, the strategy between, the straight 25 cents versus the EULA and what their approach there is?
Well, I think with the EULAs, first of all, they tend to be larger agreements in terms of dollars. So a lot of times customers aren't using a lot of those products. So I think, Oracle didn't say this to me, I think they have to give more rewards because customers already feel like they're not getting value from a lot of this stuff. And the example I give is ESPN, the cable news network. 80% of their revenue is from customers who never watch ESPN because they're on the basic level. And a lot of the ULA support revenue is for products that aren't being supported because they're not being used, right? So you have 20 products on your ULA, you're only using 10 of them, you're still paying support. So I think Oracle has to offer more on the ULA because many customers already feel like they're getting burned because, hey, I'm paying for things I'm not using. So they sort of have to bring that up to 33%. Also, there's a lot of lock-in in a ULA. You're sort of locked into one big, you can't break out your support, you'll get repriced, and all those types of things. So there's a lot of penalties in support with the ULA, and I think Oracle just has to offer a better deal there, or else they're going to continue. The reason Oracle called me, I think, is they thought this program was revolutionary. This is totally different, and this is going to change everything and get people moving to Oracle Cloud, which is the goal here, is to get people to move to Oracle Cloud. That is the only goal that Oracle has with this program. I think it's evolutionary, right? They've been trying this in different ways before. You could negotiate different terms in your contracts to get credit if you bought Oracle Cloud and all those things. So it's a continuation that Oracle's going down that path. They've got this $19 billion support business, which is 95% profit for Oracle. And that is really holding them back in the cloud space. So trying to figure out, how do I have my cake and eat it too, right? So they're trying to, and we'll see this in a few minutes, they're trying to keep their support dollars where they are and drive cloud, right? Because this program doesn't actually reduce your support cost. It just gives you credits that you can use to apply, right? So your support cost will stay the same once you stop consuming OCI. And we'll see that in a few minutes.
Is this for all products across the Oracle spectrum?
So one of the things I've asked Oracle is a basic chart with 2 columns. Column A is all the cloud stuff you can buy that will earn you rewards. And column B is all the Oracle products that are supported that you can apply those rewards to. So we haven't seen that yet. So that would be great. My understanding is it's not all products, it's database and sort of technology products, but I haven't seen any lists from Oracle.
Okay.
Yeah,
Michael, you had a point?
Yeah, the evolution, I think, is a great term, Craig. So if you think about it, so when the SaaS products were really being rolled out a few years ago and having some success, there was the incentives for the sales team. And so they were pushing people to get much better benefit selling SaaS software than on-prem. Then OCI comes along, and they were pushing pretty hard to have their payments to the people based upon getting people onto OCI. Now they realize they really need to focus on consumption because people are coming, they get that 1 year of cloud credits, and then they're leaving. So this is really more to encourage people to consume OCI. At the same time, to Craig's point, they know that if you have a EULA, you have shelfware. I mean, again, as someone who's been through this a couple times, I was typically brought in to help with distressed companies and build out IT. I would always come in and look at my SAP, my Oracle contracts, my Microsoft contracts, and you would see that you had a number of product sets that you probably weren't using. And to Craig's point, if you pull out those product sets, you're going to get repriced. And so many times that new price is going to be what you were paying before. So you're giving up software you don't use and you pay the same price. So this is one way to get over that maybe frustration that's out there, where people can say, okay, I know I can't get rid of my software with Oracle, but what I can do is if I go to their OCI platform, I can get some money back for the stuff I'm not using, in effect, with the 33%. But yeah, the pricing, again, I don't know this. My speculation is that you're going to see it focus much more on those products that they want to make sure go to OCI so they don't lose them to other competition.
And Craig, it's my understanding you guys are experts at helping people certify out of EULAs. We're talking quite a bit about that. And I think we've even got a couple of webinars, and you do as well, on our mutual websites. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do a lot of work with customers at all stages of the ULAs. We help customers get out of them at the end. We help them manage them during, and there are some times where a ULA is good for a client, so we'll help them negotiate the best ULA so that they can get out of it at the end. So we have hundreds of customers that we've helped at all facets of their ULA journey. Okay,
great. So comparisons. You mentioned earlier programs. How does this compare, even if it's not revolutionary, but evolutionary, to the previous Oracle programs?
Well, we put this little chart together to give a quick view of what Oracle is doing here. And then, you can determine, what you think is best for you. But the way Oracle was doing it before is it was one-off in a contract. So if I happened to be negotiating a contract with Oracle, Oracle was putting in language that said, if you buy cloud in the future, we'll reduce your support spend by X. And it was always a negotiation. It was always in the contracts. The difference here is that every customer who buys a certain set of Oracle Cloud products will receive rewards, right? So it's open to everyone. which is, better, but it's less negotiable, right? Because it's not in your contract. So, I look at this program as just the starting point. If you're really going all in with Oracle, and you want to move to their cloud and you want to keep spending money with them, this is the starting point. You should still be negotiating with Oracle. I think Oracle's trying to take that out of their sales process to streamline their sales process. So I think there's a couple of examples of, what could be good about this program or bad compared to what they were doing before. But they've taken it from a one-off contractual discussion to a program that everyone's supposedly signed up for automatically.
Okay, so it is an automatic situation. They don't have to sign up or change contracts.
No, I believe when you log into your portal at Oracle, there will be a sort of a bank account with credits or rewards in it. And so you'll just see that.
Kind of like credit cards that we have today.
Get your bonus points, your free miles.
Yep.
Michael, any thoughts, insights from you on the comparisons?
Well, I think what we're going to do next is Greg's going to take us through, what the math looks like, because, it is a little bit confusing. It's a newer program. So what he's going to do is walk you through what that math looks like. And then, quite honestly, we're going to talk to you about when would it make sense? And to your point, if you're going down this path, here's the things to think about to make sure you get the most value out of it. At the same time, what are the alternatives? So let's talk about that now.
Yeah, because one of the things that people have asked in advance of the webinar here is it actually going to reduce my spend with Oracle? And you have some insights around that, right, Craig?
Yeah, there's nothing, and I'll share my screen here in a second. Maybe we can come back to this slide. But and I've been saying this now for 10 years at Palisade, there is no one at Oracle who will help you spend less money with Oracle, right? So they might help you move money around into different buckets. They might help you spend less over here, but you have to spend more over there. But no one gets paid to get, like any company, like no one at Palisade gets paid to help you spend less money with Palisade. So there's always sort of, you got to look at the bigger picture and you got to look at the total cost. So while we were on hold to get into this call, I put together a quick little spreadsheet. And I think it's just the starting point of a conversation. So can you all see that yet?
It's up now, yes.
Okay, so what I wanted to do is, Dan, I wanted to answer that question. Will this have your Oracle costs go down? And I like the $1 million number that we've been using because that's what was in the spreadsheet. So the current program today, column C, let's say you spend $1 million with Oracle, right? That's your spend, $1 million in support every year. Well, if you buy $1 million in cloud, and let's say you're not on a ULA, sorry, you're going to get $250,000 in credits. So your costs, your Oracle costs, go from $1 million to 1.75. Now, that is if you're perfect in applying your credits, right? Because if you don't use your credits, I'm sure you will lose your credits. They're not going to be there for, although no one at Oracle has told me this, I'm sure they're not going to be good forever. And you also have to assume that that $1 million in support is for products that you can apply credits to. And again, we don't know that yet. So in the best case scenario, you will be getting, you'll be spending 1.75. Now, if you ever turn off those cloud credits and you stop consuming them, your support, see, I didn't change the dollars for support. The support's still $1 million. You can just apply credits to it. So this technically, and this is Oracle saying this to me, you're not actually reducing your support costs here. They're giving you credits that you can apply to other things like support. So, that's the math. Now, Oracle says you can bring your support to zero. All right. Well, if you want to spend $4 million with Oracle, right? Then you'll get $1 million in credits. But now your cost with Oracle goes up 4x. And the amazing thing about this, or not so amazing thing, is 5, 6, 7 years ago, when Safra Katz and Mark Hurd were talking about Oracle becoming a cloud company, they said, and Oracle is amazing in their candor sometimes, when people move to our cloud, they're going to spend 3 to 4 more with us than they spend now, right? And there you go. There's your 4x right there. And then you're locked, right? So if you ever start trying to move away from Oracle Cloud, your support costs kick back in, right? Those credits go down, those rewards go down. And then, obviously you guys know there's a whole bunch of other costs to staying with Oracle in terms of upgrades and things like that. But this is just the check that you write to Oracle. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Now, because it's a program, Craig, do you know of any particular date that this is valid through? I mean, does it end? Could it end?
Well, obviously, since it is a program, I think it could end at any time. Oracle's point to me was there's no incentive for them to end it because their goal is not to reduce your support costs. Their goal is to get you to Oracle Cloud. So if this gets you to Oracle Cloud, that's what they're going to do, right? So for me, when I look at the old way they were doing it, that the fact that they're doing it a new way tells me that the old way wasn't working for them, right? So we got to try something new because that's not working.
All right, great. Listen, along these lines, we had a question come in from Jason. He said that given that Oracle is only providing minimal enhancements, and he was specifically referring to EBS, what alternatives are there? And this sort of, I think, probably encapsulates the idea around not just the Oracle cost, but the other costs that are associated. Michael, can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, and so, Craig talked about it. Obviously, when you look at, and I've run EBS before and after PeopleSoft, and so when you look at what you're getting from a software support and then from an enhancement and where the money's being spent, it's obviously not being spent on those product sets. So the question is, why would you continue to pay the sums of money you are for that ERP software? And obviously, that's what Rimini does. But at the same time, aside from what we do around support, what I would encourage anyone to do who has an older ERP system, look at the full stack and, look at that TCO and figure out, whether it's the software support, the infrastructure, the software to run the infrastructure, the labor to run the infrastructure, the application support. Start doing that business case yourself. And obviously I can work with you if you need, or Palisades can help you, but start working that business case and see 3 and 5 years out, and lock in your business case and business model. Don't rely on rewards and programs, which may or may not be there, but you make the decision on where you want to go 3 and 5 years down the road. But build that full TCO model. As I said, we can help you do that to figure out if OCI is right for you. Is OCI SaaS and future, is that right for you? Or are there different alternatives, moving to an Azure or AWS cloud, leaving your infrastructure, basically it is, but just taking advantage of, the Amazon and Azure breadth and footprint and their pricing, which is typically significantly less than just about anybody else in the market, given their buying power. So again, I would just say maintain control. Don't get locked into savings that may or may not be there 2 or 3 years down the road, but keep that control.
And Michael, I know that you don't have a live spreadsheet, but you do have this iceberg concept showing some differences here. Maybe you might want to speak to that a little bit.
Yes. So what I tried to do here, we did this for our actual customer, is when you look at the TCO, when it comes to your software, right, you obviously have, running that software, whether you host it yourself or you run it in the cloud or someone else hosts it for you, and then the maintenance and support. And we use the iceberg concept being when you think of software support, you know the bill you pay every year or so to SAP, Oracle, whoever it is, or Microsoft. That's obvious. It's $1 million. But there's things underneath the iceberg that your ship can run aground on. And what we try and do is make sure that people understand what they are, work with you and educate it. And so when you look at software support, do you need to stay on that train, if you will, and get an upgrade? Because you know if you don't upgrade and you call in for support, you probably won't get an answer. You know, you call in for a SQL issue and they're going to ask you what version you're on. Well, you need to upgrade to the next version and we can help you. So that's what we try and do here with the iceberg on the maintenance and support side. And then on the data center operations side, the same thing. So again, if you're running an older system, even just a couple years old, what you're spending on that hardware to maintain it, maybe what you're spending on labor to support hardware that's one-off from what the data center standard is, or quite honestly, if you're trying to compete with Amazon or Azure in CPU and storage costs, you're not going to be able to compete long-term. Maybe it's okay now because you're fully depreciated, but long-term, that next upgrade path, you're going to be sticker shock if you try and buy hardware yourself. And so what we try and do, we work with clients, and Palisade does the same thing on the software side. We lay out for you that 3 and 5 years, what your costs are and what they could be. And then you take that information back and decide what makes sense. And again, that's really, I think, what our approach here today is. OCI definitely is an alternative. Oracle Rewards with OCI as an alternative. It is one of the alternatives that you should consider. At the same time, there are other ones that may make more sense for you. And that's what this slide shows.
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. So, gentlemen, we've talked about alternatives. We talked about OCI. When does this support rewards program make sense? Who is it meant for and who will benefit the most?
So I think if you set aside the emotion aspect of it, if you are committed to OCI and you're committed to spending, next 3 to 5 years with Oracle for your software support, you should definitely take a strong look at this program. In other words, if those two things are going to happen, then I would say take advantage of the free money they're offering. That to me would be the customer. But I definitely would say if you're using this to make an OCI versus Amazon or OCI versus Azure business case, then I would say bring them to the table. Because I would be very surprised if you did the full-in package that, and throwing a GCP and Google, that they would not aggressively go after and win your business, especially you already have an existing stack. Those players, combined are many times larger, but also they're offering significant incentives right now for SAP and Oracle clients. They want that workload because they know that you're going to have that software around for 5, 10, 15 years. And so they're very aggressive in their incentives to get those workloads moved to their platform. So again, if you're committed to that 3 and 5 years, and not 1 to 2 years with Oracle, and you really are using OCI, then I would say take advantage of the free money. If you're not in that situation, then I would definitely work with us or just work with your cloud provider to do that business case analysis. At the same time, let's say you're hosted with, IBM, NTT. If you bring anyone else to the picture, they're going to aggressively work with you on their pricing for your infrastructure costs. So again, bring people to the table and get everyone's numbers down, and I think you'll be much more successful.
Okay, great. Craig?
I think that was a great answer. I would just add a couple of things to it. I would not make my technology decision based on this program. Make a decision, and then whatever path you go down, get the most out of your agreements and what's being offered and what you can negotiate. So I think that's very much in line with what Michael said. And then, so that's the one group. And then the second group is it's good for Oracle, right? This is smart. Like this is kind of the things they should be doing to try to get people to move to their cloud. So I think, like you said, if you're really heavily invested, you're going to go all in on OCI. This is something you should take advantage of. And then obviously, if Oracle wouldn't have done this if it wasn't good for them. So you saw the numbers before, the costs go up. This is a way to double, triple, quadruple the revenue for Oracle.
All right, terrific. We've finished the presentation portion, gents, and we've got some questions from the audience here. And just a reminder for other folks out there, please enter into the Q&A any questions that you might have, and we'll be happy to address them. So let's take a look at this. All right, so are there any gotchas to the rewards program?
Craig, go ahead. You got that one.
Well, I think there's a bunch of potential gotchas. We just don't know yet. For example, they could end tomorrow, right? You could move to OCI and be getting those rewards, and then they shut off the program, and now you're not getting any rewards, right? So I think that's a really big gotcha. The fact that it's not in the contract and we don't have some of the details in terms of what you can apply credits for, to. So, we want to, there's all those particulars, right? So if you are negotiating a cloud contract with Oracle, you really want to get those details, right? This is no longer about, I'm sort of thinking this through on the fly since we just got the question. Sometimes you have one group that's paying your support invoices and another group that's negotiating your cloud contracts, and those two aren't talking. Now they have to talk, right? Because you could be buying Oracle Cloud and not even knowing you're getting rewards that you may or may not be able to use. So sort of need to think through that whole strategy. It really forces the client to act more centralized, I think, or at least collaborate across organizations.
Okay, great. So Richard's asking, how do I get this TCO analysis around OCI versus other offerings that you talked about? I think, Michael, you're the one who brought that up.
Yeah, and so again, you can reach out to us. You see how to do it at the end. But at the end of the day, you want to start looking at not just the obvious costs around the infrastructure. Start looking at the labor around it. Start talking about the software support, what you spend on upgrades. But I can walk you through this. There's about a dozen different factors that you can pretty quickly gather numbers on. At the same time, if I said it before, if Amazon, if you're an Amazon customer and they know you're talking to Oracle, they will bring someone to the call and have a conversation with you about how to do a TCO. If you're an Azure customer, the same thing. And again, obviously you can reach out to me and I can help walk you through it. But there's also calculators online. All the cloud providers have them that you can also do a quick calculation. Now, again, that focuses predominantly on infrastructure and just applies a generic number for like labor and software support. But again, reach out to me or reach out to providers if you're an existing client of any of the cloud providers to help you with those numbers.
Okay, and actually kind of a similar question, different topic, similar question. Chen is asking, how do we engage to help with our EULA situation and determining whether or not Oracle Rewards is the right approach? Craig, you want to take that?
Yeah, I think if you need help with your Oracle ULA, just info@palisadecompliance.com. Send us a note and we'll set up a meeting and we'll talk to you about how we can help. And first we'll try to understand what your issues and concerns are, and then we'll talk to you about how we could help you.
In fact, let me put this. I'll put this slide up, which shows the different ways to connect with folks too. Okay, great. Let's see. Lee is asking, how can I take Oracle's offering and drive down cost reductions with other potential solutions?
Yeah, and I think that's what we've been talking about. Get it in writing, get that email or that document about what that 3-5 year run rate and cost structure is. And by the way, those are your numbers now because it's your business. Talk to somebody else. and again, maybe you don't want to share the numbers as is, but have a conversation. Look, I've gotten a roadmap and a pricing from A. I want to go talk to B. It's the same thing you do when you go buy anything, right? You buy a house, you look at comps in the area. And so what I strongly recommend is get that information, and then everyone has, a team, pre-sales, whatever you want to call it, who will sit down and talk to you and talk about that roadmap and those numbers. We do the same thing with clients all the time, because what we're trying to do is say, here's the information, here's the numbers, you go make the decision. What I don't like is when people say, here's the number, and like, here's your number, go run with it. Like, no, I want to make sure I'm shopping. I want you to understand my business pain, and I want to get your information, have my TCO analysis, and then run it against something else. That's what I've always done.
Okay, great.
Hey, Dan, Craig? I would just add to that, these offerings are not exclusive. So if you're an Oracle customer and you have multiple support contracts, you can absolutely, buy Oracle Cloud, consume Oracle Cloud, get some rewards, and then take some of your Oracle support business to Rimini Street. Hey, I want you guys to support my EBS. I want you guys to support my database. I'm going to apply these credits over here. So I don't want people to think that just because you bought some Oracle Cloud and now you've got these rewards that you can't move to Rimini Street. As a matter of fact, if you looked at that spreadsheet, even if you bought $1 million in cloud and got all those credits, if you went to Rimini, you'd still be spending less than you were before. So you just want to, or than you would if you just stay with Oracle support, right? So the numbers work out for themselves. And again, they're your numbers. You have to figure that out. But these are not mutually exclusive. I mean, eventually Oracle wants you to have so much cloud that you're locked into everything Oracle. But at least for now, you can buy Oracle Cloud, get some rewards, and still go to other things like Rimini Street.
And Craig, that's a great point. Thank you for adding. And that really is, you can be rewards with us. You can be an OCI. We have OCI clients all over. The key, though, is, to his point, you as the client are making the decision. You maintain control over your future. You get to get the best of both worlds if that's what you want, and that's what makes sense for you. But don't give up that control, and don't let anyone decide what your future is going to look like.
Well, and Michael, partially to Craig's point, with Oracle, you're going to get 25 cents on the dollar credit. With Rimini Street, you're getting a 50% discount flat forever. So it's not it's a significantly different approach then.
Yeah, I was trying to probably be a little bit too nice. Yeah, the math is not even close.
Right, because in addition, Rimini Street takes care of customizations, which Oracle won't support, performance support, and you don't have to upgrade anymore, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and because to be totally honest, I was a customer a couple of times before I came here. It is, if you're used to the phone call where someone says, well, I see you haven't applied that patch, or that's not our report. You've actually modified the database and added some fields. You will never hear that when you call us. If it's broken, we fix it. So it's just a different mindset.
Okay. Let's see. Again, audience, if you've got any more questions, please put them in the chat box. Gentlemen, any closing remarks? Any other last comments before we close this out?
No, for me, I think we've covered it. I want to thank you guys. I want to thank everyone for taking time out of your day. I think, like I said before, it's an evolutionary program. Definitely want to look at it. For the vast majority of Oracle consumers, I don't think it really makes sense, but there's that niche of customers who should look at it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And Palisade and Rimini Street will both be staying on top of this issue. So as things develop with this breaking news, because this was really literally just last month, we will be pulling this together and keeping you up to date as you're interested. So want to thank everybody on the call very much for your time. If you want to have someone listen to this later or look at the slides, we'll be getting that all out to you as well. So thanks again. Everyone have a terrific day.